How you doing? I'm Maine with the Grappling Rewind, and if you're watching this video, we're going to run through some of the best things that you can do to catch the eyes of promoters and get the opportunity to be featured on a BJJ Superfight and potentially end up being covered by us here on the Grappling Rewind. In the lead up to this video, I talked with a bunch of promoters and asked them specifically what they were looking for from competitors that they feature on their events. This video is also going to include a bunch of things that we have figured out over the years of covering professional submission grappling for grapplers that we've seen featured on multiple events. So I'm going to break these tips down into 11 things that you can do to help yourself get matchups. The first half of the video is going to be what's absolutely necessary and mandatory to be featured on these matchups. And the second half of the video is going to be much more general advice and a few things about getting on your first few super fight matchups. Later in the video, we're going to expand on a lot of the things that we talk about initially in the video. So stay tuned for the whole thing because there's a lot of good tips and information throughout the entire video. As well as in the second half of the video, we're going to go into more of the nitty-gritty of things that will help you get featured on multiple super fight matchups after you've been featured a single time. So let's start with number one. Be professional. This should go without saying, but professionalism in the lead up, professionalism all throughout will help you huge in getting featured on a matchup. Professionalism also includes things like showing up on time, making weight, providing the promoter with things they need, providing them with coaching staff, making sure your coaching staff is professional, providing the promoter with an email that you use, not one that you only check every week or so. These all will lead to promoters wanting to work with you and help you get on super fight matchups. Another huge piece of professionalism is being easy to work with. A lot of promoters want people that are easy to work with. And if you are easy to work with, you're much more likely to get a super fight call up and to be called up in the future for either the same event or different events. Understand you're in a very small sport and promoters and athletes and grapplers all talk to each other. And so if someone is particularly easy or difficult to work with, that will affect your ability to get on super fights in the future. Good conduct is always the first thing we provide anyone asking how to get on matchups. Second thing, social media. Promoters want to see some sort of engagement online. Are you a member of a BJJ community? Are you active on social media? Realize that you're going to be showcased on an event by a promoter, and they want to make sure that the brand that you represent yourself on online will match with their brand. Your brand represents their brand represents your brand. So make sure that the way that you put yourself out online is the way that you want to be represented, and make sure that that is a way that promoters will want to represent themselves as well. Because when they feature you on an event, you will be under the lights. You're going to be the one that is being looked at by all the people there. And so with that spotlight on you, they want to really make sure that you're someone that they want to work with. And social media is typically the first thing that they will see from you, so put your best foot forward. The third one, be active, not just on social media. Superfight promoters want to see that the competitors that they are going to feature on their events are active in the competition circuit. Are you on regular tournaments? The lion's share of promoters do not want to feature a grappler who this is their first competition or even their first handful of competitions. Promoters are looking for people who are established and active in the jiu-jitsu community and understand what it takes to succeed on individual matchups in a tournament format, as well as potentially on a super fight showcase. The more active you are on a regular competition circuit, the more likely promoters are to just see you in general and want to feature you on their events. Promoters love people who have already proven themselves in open tournaments because that shows that you know what it takes to perform under pressure. Number 4, have some sort of accolade, and that's not just winning black belt worlds or being featured on ADCC. If you're a Masters 2 blue belt competitor cleaning out your divisions, that's something that a promoter is potentially looking for, because then it showcases again that you're active and that you can perform when it counts and under the lights. The biggest thing that we see as a barrier to entry is competitors that do not have any sort of accolades behind them. Promoters are much less likely to feature those grapplers than ones that are applying for their events that have some sort of accolade. Having more accolades will also help you get featured higher up on the card. Typically, the people that we see featured on the main card on big events are ones that have the most accolades of all the competitors on that card. The world champions, the multiple time returning champions, the people that have won that event before, the people that are very well known locally for being competitive and successful. So going out on your own, entering these tournaments and bringing back a collection of accolades will help you showcase to promoters that you are someone that they should feature on their events. A lot of promoters are very interested in showcasing the best of the best, so the more accolades you can put behind your name, the closer you get in that conversation. So the final things of the absolutely mandatory items are submit an application. Events like Fight to Win, Kasai, Finishers, Midwest Finishers, Subspectrum, Sogi, Jits King, Third Coast Grappling, SAGC, all of these events have some sort of online application process. Filling out that application is your first step to being seen by these promoters and them potentially featuring you on their events. Also, a lot of these tournaments will have some sort of qualifier or trials. Competing on those and showcasing that you have top talent that they are looking for and potentially even winning your spot into these tournaments is a great place to start if you have not been featured on events before. A big piece of it is putting in the legwork. Unless you are from a big team or have a big coach or have a big name, promoters are not going to be banging down your door to feature you on their events unless you submit that application. The application shows the promoters that you are interested in being on their events and gives them reason to reach out to you in order to feature you on their events. Applications aren't necessarily formal, just showing interest in being on an event, talking to promoters in person at events, potentially if they run a school, speaking to them at their school. A lot of these will help you get in the eye and get in the ear of promoters, and they will be much more likely to potentially even reach out to you in the future, especially if they are familiar with you from the competitive scene or you showcase things that promoter is particularly looking to showcase on their event. Typically, when promoters select through applications, they look at the black belts, the gym owners, and the people with the largest level of accolades that have submitted to be on their event. And then they go down to the people that are less and less and less known and have less accolades. So having more accolades, being a black belt, all of these things will help you, but not having these things will not necessarily preclude you from being featured on events. If promoters have someone else that meets their criteria and they're looking for a matchup and you have the selected criteria, they're potentially going to give you a call. So even if you're necessarily not super established in a jiu-jitsu scene or a locale, submit an application for an event because you may be someone that for whatever reason a promoter is looking to feature. A lot of times, being at the right place and being at the right time will get you featured on these matchups. So make sure that you make yourself known so that if that opportunity does present itself, a promoter knows that they should call you. Another big piece with the application is making a good application. Make sure that you're providing the promoter with all of the things that they've asked for on the application in full detail so that a promoter knows all of what they need to know for featuring you. So let's talk about some of the various responses that I got from promoters when I sent out this question of what are you looking for featuring grapplers on your event. Well, a lot of answers were the same depending on what type of event a promoter was running. A lot of them were different as well, and so we'll talk about some of the different selection criteria that promoters had for selecting grapplers on their events. And then later we'll get into things like invitationals because they really have their own set of rules, but you can set yourself up to be featured on those as well. If you're interested in the world of professional grappling and BJJ and BJJ Superfights, I host a podcast with my team here at the Grappling Rewind every week that's available on iTunes, Spotify. You can subscribe to it and subscribe on this channel here to get more information about the BJJ competitive superfight scene and professional jiu-jitsu in general. So let's move on to number 6. Lots of promoters are looking for people that can sell tickets. You being able to sell tickets shows that you can generate interest in an event and brings money to that promoter, and that promoter is looking to host an event that usually generates money. So your ability to do that will put you on the short list for them to feature you on it. Your ability to sell tickets as a grappler translates to a tangible dollar value for that promoter that represents something that you are bringing to their event. That is huge. Number 7, cultivate a following or a fan base. And that can be even guys at your gym, people that will show up and are interested in watching you grapple and compete. Those are people that are engaged in you specifically as a grappler. You can harness those people and really showcase that to a promoter, then they will want to feature you. By providing that you have a fan base and a following, you show a superfight promoter that you are someone they want to feature. The more people and eyes that a single grappler can put on their event, the more likely that someone is to showcase that grappler because they will generate an additional following, potentially additional income in an event. Number 8, create a highlight. A highlight will show a promoter that you are the type of grappler they are looking for, especially if you don't have a name and if you have not been on a couple super fights already. This highlight will showcase your ability as a grappler and show that you are someone that promoter wants to work with. You can show that you are flashy or active or go for the submission, or even big wins over big people that the promoter might not have known about can be showcased in your highlight. Your highlight should present your best foot forward to promoters because typically promoters are looking online, looking through your social media when selecting who they're going to feature. A highlight will provide them exactly with who you are on the mat in a competitive situation situation to show them that you are what they want. A highlight will also show Superfight promoters that stalling is not your path to victory. Having highlights and showcase subs will show a promoter that you are someone they want to feature. Promoters are looking for people who are going for the sub, who are active, who are engaging, who are interesting to watch. Remember, when you are on a Superfight matchup, you're the only match happening, so all eyes are going to be on you. Promoters want grapplers that will engage a crowd, be fun to watch, are going for highlight reel subs, and you can put those highlight reel subs that you have in your highlight video. The promoters will see that and then be much more likely to contact you and reach out to you, especially after you've submitted an application. If there's a place to put a highlight reel or a link to your highlight in the application, always do that. Always make sure that it's an up-to-date highlight that has your best stuff showcased front and center so that a promoter can see it very quickly and see, oh, this is definitely someone that I should feature on my event. Think of a highlight video as your video resume. It's what you're presenting to promoters to show them up front very quickly that you're someone that they should feature on their event. It's your ability to do this that will help you. Number 8. Be available and be flexible. Have your friends and friends of your friends be on the lookout and tagging yourself when promoters are looking for matchups. If you meet a criteria and you are the same belt rank or weight that a promoter is looking for, make sure your friends are on the lookout too and presenting and putting your name out there so that promoters are aware that you potentially are available to fill that replacement slot if something opens up. Stay up to date with promoters and be on the lookout for what they are looking for. If you can put your name out there for a late replacement call, many times promoters will reach out to you directly in order to fill that spot if you are available. If a promoter is looking for a replacement and they see 8 different people that have tagged themselves, and then they see 8 different people that have tagged the same person, they are much more likely to reach out to the person that has been tagged multiple times in a post because that person has cultivated a fan base and built a following that potentially is interested in watching that grappler fill the replacement spot and putting eyes on their event. This is a very real thing that I have seen personally for grappling and events. People get tagged multiple times on an event and that promoter looks and reaches out to the person that was tagged multiple times on a post and features that grappler. Now, I'm not saying spam your post everywhere. I'm saying respectfully put your name out there and let a promoter know that you're available to fill that spot. Another thing that'll help you huge is flexibility. If you are comfortable competing at 185 to 260 pounds, let a promoter know that. If you are able to fill a much larger variety of spaces, that's much easier for a promoter to find a matchup than a blue belt that is only able to take a match at 167 pounds in the gi. If you're willing to compete no gi, willing to compete up in belt or up in weight or down in weight, letting a promoter know that either on an application or some other way will much more easily let a promoter match you up with someone that you can showcase your skills against. This is especially true of single matchups and even more so in tournaments. If you're willing to compete out of your belt, we frequently see black belts and blue belts matched up in the same 16-person tournaments. If you can showcase your skills and you can meet and make the weight, a promoter is much more likely to feature you, especially if it's a no-gi bout. No-gi bouts, we see inner belt all the time. It's a very common. So if you can make the weight and you want to be featured on that event, put your application in, make sure your name is out there. Number 10, be willing to take an unpaid undercard matchup. A lot of times undercard matchups are not paid or potentially there is a win bonus, but not usually. A lot of times just getting your name out there will help you build your resume and build your accolades like we talked about earlier in this. Having a great performance on the undercard will also be great for getting a promoter to feature you on their main card. Many guys that we've seen over the years that initially started even low on the undercard are now on the main card, sometimes even in the main event because of really standout performances that they had on a promotion's undercard. Also, showing that you can be professional in your first bout will help you get featured again. Getting your foot in the door is huge. So these unpaid matchups give you an opportunity to showcase yourself, build a resume, and potentially are a really great place to start. Also, a lot of times promoters run tournaments and qualifiers, or a promoter sometimes will run an open tournament. You can register for these tournaments and show up and compete, and you can show yourself to promoters in these tournaments so that they will call you in the future to be featured on their events. And number 11, have an idea of the guys you want to compete against. Look at grapplers on a promotion, potentially you have faced before, potentially you have beaten before. If someone holds a title or is featured on the last card, if this is a person that you are interested in running it back with, many promoters actually are looking for these sort of matchups with grapplers that have history between each other. It creates a much more compelling narrative, and lots of times promoters want to feature these sort of matchups, especially if both grapplers have an interest in taking the matchups. Promoters like matches that the grapplers themselves are interested in, so be on the lookout for people that you've competed against before and that you want to face again. So we're through the first 11 tips. Let's talk about some more nitty-gritty. Number 12, invitations. For invitations, typically you have to have a standout performance on another promotion or another match. A lot of times grappling promotions are looking for very specific criteria for who they feature on their invitationals. They are looking for outstandingly exciting grapplers that go for the finish, that have a fan base, and that can showcase great jiu-jitsu on their promotion. They are looking for true highlight reel grapplers. And so this goes through what we've talked about through this entire video, is creating something and creating a narrative like that for yourself on social media, with your highlight, with your previous performances, can all help you get invited to these big invitationals. Sometimes invitationals looking for high-level grapplers that are entrenched in the pro BJJ scene, while others are just looking to invite a specific type of grappler that they want to feature on their event. Don't necessarily preclude yourself because you have not won some giant, huge, open tournament. If you can showcase the jiu-jitsu that a promotion is looking for, they might give you the call. When I spoke to promoters, some of them specifically stated that they don't just look for black belts when they are looking for invitationals. They are specifically selecting grapplers that they think will showcase the kind of jiu-jitsu that they are looking for on their event. So even if you're not a black belt, I've had promoters specifically tell me about blue belts that they were very, very happy that they invited because they showcase the kind of jiu-jitsu that the promotion wanted to see. Promotions love prospects. Promotions love to be the first event that showcases an up-and-comer that really blows up in a year or 2 years. So if you have the ability to compete and showcase and win big matchups, make sure that you are on the short list for getting invitations. Being part of the larger BJJ community in either a local area or a regional scene or on a competitive scene in an area will help the promoters know you and see you and know that they are someone and you are someone that they should reach out to feature on their invitation-only event. Number 13, rule exceptions. So look at this video as a guide and understand that there are exceptions to every rule. Every promotion does things slightly differently. Every grappler is slightly different. We are in a very eclectic, very large sport. And so what one promoter is looking for is not necessarily what another promoter is looking for. What one grappler features is not necessarily what another grappler features. So there's exceptions to every rule in this video, and understand that this video is a guide and not necessarily a hard and fast rule for getting on every single promotion. If you like this video, please check out the Grappling Rewind. And if you like it, please subscribe to this YouTube channel so that I can do more of these sort of videos. We run through professional grappling and super fights every Tuesday on the Grappling Rewind podcast, and you can actually get the show here on Wednesday as well. Check out our other content on other platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We appreciate it all. I've been Maine. We'll see you on the mats.